Welcome to 15 with Christine. Cassie Burchell, owner of AlphaGraphics based in Hoover, Alabama, is our special guest today. So let's get started. On 15 with Christine, we talk about all things business growth. But before we dive in, I want to let you know where you can find this episode. I'm going to come to you live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and you won't miss an episode. You know, my goal with 15 with Christine is to introduce you to people who can help you grow your business and take it to the next level. And I'm looking forward to the conversation with Cassie Burchell, who owns AlphaGraphics here in Hoover, Alabama. Welcome, Cassie.
Hey, thank you. So glad to be here, Christine. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation because I love seeing the creative things that you share on LinkedIn, on your social media, because what you do is so visual. But before we dive into how you do that with your clients, can you tell us the story of becoming an entrepreneur? You know, how did you come to own the AlphaGraphics here?
Well, I was I'll date myself a little bit, but I was a Yellow Page sales manager for 21 years and had a long, great career there and very grateful for the things I learned. But as I approached that 21, 22 year mark, you know, things happen in corporate America and you start seeing your friends leave and not come back. And so I think I just decided that I wanted to be a little more in control of my future, knowing that I had 2 girls in college and a few more years, a lot more years I needed to work and probably weddings in my future and all that sort of thing. So I really started looking for the opportunity to own a business. I'd really always been intrigued because in the Yellow Pages, I dealt with business owners, my whole career, and I heard their stories and how they started and what their passions were. And so I really started looking into that. And so probably investigated that through some really great people who bring businesses to you, brokers, basically business brokers. And a great lady in Atlanta, Teresa Lose, directed me to 5 different businesses. And after about 6 months of lots of prayer and just due diligence to figure out what best suited our family, both my husband and I, and our children, because they become a part of that when you go into business ownership. We really narrowed it down to AlphaGraphics primarily because of my background in advertising and marketing. And then I was an art major, so I love the creative aspects of it. So that's really what drove me to do that, is just to be a little more in control. I kind of thought I might have a little more time. That'll come later when I talk about maybe, learning. But that's really what drove me to do that, is just wanting to be in control of my exit strategy from working.
I hear that from a lot of entrepreneurs, that freedom and control. But I'd love to hear about how do you take that expertise that you developed, in your many years in the corporate world, to help your clients really tell their story. Because when I looked through what you do, there's something that really caught my eye, and I've got some notes here, so I make sure and get it right. You say we're not printers who do marketing and design. We're marketers and designers who happen to be expert printers. Because I'd love to take that connection to the marketing expertise, to really helping business owners tell their stories from a strategic standpoint. Because what I'm curious about is, how do you do that?
Well, we are, and we're constantly changing and growing. Coming from the Yellow Page industry, one the business going, oh, printing's going away. Look at what happened with Yellow Pages, you know. And I sort of became hypersensitive to making sure we had things in place that took us beyond just printing. We were, when we bought the business 7 years ago, it was very much a printing organization, and you know, maybe a little bit of signage, no marketing at all. So I jumped in almost with this fervor and sort of urgency that, like, I've got to make sure we're digital, make sure we're prepared. So when I say we're really designers and marketers, we really try. Now, we're very transactional. Don't get me wrong. People come in and say, I just need a business card. I just need to have this printed. But our ideal client is someone who comes in and wants to develop a brand, or who says, I need to reach my clients. And so we really take more time up front than we do on the back end of all of our projects. Because in reality, clients don't know what they want. They know what they don't like, and they know their business, but they don't always know what they want. So we try to spend a lot of time on design, marketing, who's their client, who are they trying to reach, a needs analysis, just like you do in your business. You know, what are you really trying to accomplish? And that gives us two things. It helps us accomplish what they're immediately asking for, what project they're working on now, but it also helps us with offerings, like key offerings for other things that we can do for them without just throwing everything at them at once. We can really help them develop a long-term strategy.
Yes. So a long-term plan to meet those needs.
Correct.
So help us understand, you know, when you're working with a client, whether they have a need to make an impression at a trade show, or they're planning an event, or maybe they're planning something to drive their own employees' engagement. What are some examples of how you've worked with clients who were just really happy with the results? Can you share some of those examples with us?
I can. I think it goes back to relationships. Like most great, you know, business transactions, it starts with a relationship, and all of that doesn't happen at once, because it does sometimes start out as a transactional relationship. But as they get to know us, what we really try to do, whether, like you said, sometimes they don't come to us for employee engagement, but we say, hey, how is your employee engagement? What's going on? Can we put up a calendar, and we can help you with some incentives, things like that. But I would say, when you ask, how does that look? It really starts out, once again, with those questions. And then we spend a lot of time with our designers, sometimes to the point of not even always making money with our design department, because there's a lot we do up front that we can't charge for, or we could, but we don't. A lot of it just starts with mock-ups and what is this end result going to look like? Because everyone's not visual. Everyone can't picture, you know, what a revenue tracker is going to look like on a board. And we say, oh, we put up an acrylic sign and we make it 3-dimensional, and they don't understand what that looks like. So we spend a lot of time to mock up the end result. So that when we're done, that's actually what the client gets. And so if it's logo design, that starts out, once again, with what colors do you like? What are you trying to achieve? People think their logo has to tell their whole story. You know, like everything's got to be wrapped up in this, you know, you got to have 15 things in this logo, because when they see it, they've got to know everything you do. And that's really not the case. We try to get people to realize your logo is merely a mark of your business, and then how you market it is how people get to know you. So there's a lot involved in it, depending on the project. But that's really how we start. It's just a lot of questions, a lot of back and forth with design. And then once it's approved, the production part of it really moves right along.
Yes, it sounds like you put a lot of time and effort into making sure those expectations are really clear about what the end result is going to be. Because in your industry, can there be big surprises?
There can be big surprises. And one of those big surprises is on the front end. Those of us who like to be creative love to create things that then the guys in the back are like, how the heck are we going to make this? You know, so they're like, oh, you know, I remember one time we did a giant, like, I was like, let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. And it looked so great. And then I was given a limitation in the future on how big something could be. So, you know, so there are sometimes surprises. And one of the big questions we ask a client is, how are you going to use this? You know, is it going to go outside? Is it going to go inside? Are you going to need to move it around a lot? That you don't want to use a really inexpensive, you know, product or material if you're going to move it around a lot, or if it's going to be outside. And So there can be surprises, and sometimes you have to in a product, because we really are a manufacturing business too,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we produce everything that we come up with, and so materials don't always hold up the way you want them to. So there can be surprises, and in this business, you have to eat some of those surprises.
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't happen too often, but we try to be really realistic. And at this point, we've tried a lot of things, and we have a good idea of what will and won't work. And
That makes sense.
I will say I've had a lot of good mentors. Um, Being part of a franchise, AlphaGraphics,
Yes.
there are owners across, as you know, Christine, owners across the country that we have the opportunity to network with, and invaluable, the first 5 or 6 years. And even now I'll call somebody and say, hey, have you ever had this happen? So yeah, you don't always know what the end results, you know what it's going to look like, but getting there sometimes can be challenging, for sure.
Well, I remember the first time I met you was at a trade show. This was before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And you just had so many creative ways of reaching the group that was there and gathering information. And I know that's also work that you do with your clients. As we're moving out of I guess the restrictions we were under with COVID, what are you seeing with trade shows? What are people looking to achieve now that there's more face-to-face going on?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because, trade shows are a little bit about being flashy, how you look,
Yes.
but the more important thing about a trade show is how you engage.
Yes.
With you, if you don't engage with people, you can look fantastic, but if you're not talking to people and they're just looking at these beautiful lights around. So it's really what we really focus on is how are your potential prospects going to engage with you.
Yes.
And we can do some people don't have a huge budget for a trade show,
Right.
but you can do a
Right.
nice backdrop and some fun giveaways. And a lot of people want to spend money on the giveaways, but I'm always like, let's engage first. And that could be something kind of old school, like a spinner, but like it coordinates with trinkets on the table, because you want to control your costs too as a business. You don't want to you can't give away everything. One of the ways we did that recently for an orthopedic group is she had a spinner she had used, I don't know, probably for 10 years. And we spiffed it up a little bit, brought it kind of current, but then the colors on it coordinated with a series of question cards. The cards were all color coded, but every question, she wanted people to learn stuff about her physicians and her providers and her services. So those cards ask questions kind of like Jeopardy. So they spun a green, they answered a green question, they got a candy bar wrapped in green. And those candy bars were all different flavors and, all of that, and like different price points and that sort of thing. So that was a really inexpensive way for her to do that. We just recently did an email campaign for one of our big clients who was going to Las Vegas to do a trade show. And it was really important for us to get an email out. They're really high tech. And so before people were at the trade show, they really wanted people to stop by, engage with their technology. So their email, we had to, build the design, convert it to HTML, have their email go out ahead of time with videos connecting to some of their news stories and their most recent video that they had a company do showcasing, their technology and their cutting edge. It's a great company. So getting that out in a timely manner so that people still had time to engage with it before the trade show. Last year we did something, and I'll speak briefly about this, but we have the ability to do digital campaigns. A campaign with people, and this was a long running campaign with St. Vincent's Hospital and their mothers that came in. So it was really important throughout their pregnancy for their moms to get care, to make sure they were coming in on appointments. And so we had a 40-week-long touch point campaign that kicked off with a postcard. So that was really fun. And, we tried to find out.
Manage all of that, both the digital side as well as the physical assets, whatever that is that relates to their strategic goal.
Correct. Yeah.
I love hearing these details because when I first think of AlphaGraphics, I don't think of that tie-in from the digital to the physical, and then the link to the strategy for the company. Well, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, you know what, I'd like to learn more about what Cassie does, make sure and look her up on LinkedIn. You can go to alphagraphics.com to learn more or call the office. The number is here on the screen. Cassie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. It was great talking to you again.
I enjoyed it. And for everyone listening, we'll be back with another fantastic conversation in 2 weeks on 15 with Christine. Until next time.